Hi there, and welcome back to the Creative Endeavor podcast. This is the podcast bringing you inspiring stories from creative professionals from around the world, real conversations with real artists. It is such a pleasure to have your company here once again. In this episode, I'm talking to Anthony Avon, who's a very talented digital artist based in Serbia. Now, Anthony and I got to know each other a bit when he started following me on Patreon, and he started to upload some of his digital art to the private Facebook page that's associated with my Patreon. And immediately I took notice and I was just like, man, this is great work. And then he did something extraordinary. He started doing a series of master studies. He was taking the old master's work from the 19th century, some incredible landscape paintings, and he started doing a master copy a day. And the challenge was he would do this every day for 100 days straight. Man, that was such an inspiring idea. I don't think enough of us nowadays really drill into the fundamentals and try to work out what makes the old masters so great. And I think that Anthony might just find out by the end of this challenge. He's well on his way. Now, Anthony's story is a really inspiring one. He really struggled in the beginning. You know, a lot of us creatives do. But it's what he did in the face of that struggle that I was just blown away by. All it needed was just one break, one little chance. Anthony grabbed it with both hands, he capitalized on it, and he just ran with the opportunity. And he ended up doing some incredible work. He's employed full-time as a freelance digital artist. And he ended up getting a major gig with a company that he could have only dreamed about 10 years ago. This was an incredible story and such an inspiration to talk to him. So right now, I want you to go and follow Anthony on Instagram. He can be found at anthony.avon.art, and that last name is spelled A-V-O-N. He can also be found on ArtStation, artstation.com/Anthony Avon. And on Patreon as well, where he shares his digital work and tips for how he produces his amazing images on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Anthony Avon. Now, right now, of course, you're listening to the audio version of this podcast, but there's an exclusive video version of the podcast. And there's a little bit of a section here right around the middle of our conversation where we're talking about something that is quite visual, and there's video of this, where we're talking about composition in relation to some of the old masters and what Anthony discovered with Albert Bierstadt's use of the golden ratio. Now, if you want to see the exclusive video version of this podcast, then follow me over on Patreon. I'm on Patreon as well, of course, patreon.com/Andrew Tischler Art. So you can follow me over there. I'm pretty sure that's the right link. If I haven't given you the right link, then just, yeah, you know how it works. Search my name, right? You'll find a link to my Patreon in the description box that's associated with this podcast, wherever you're listening to that. So without further ado, let's get stuck into this conversation. I think you're going to be really inspired, just as I was. Here's Anthony Avon in the Creative Endeavor. Anthony Avon, welcome to the Creative Endeavor podcast. It is such a pleasure to have your company here today.
Sure. I've said it before when we first spoke, and this is a huge honor. Your art has influenced my art for a very long time, and it's really unbelievable to be here talking to you.
Not at all, man. No, look, it's just so cool that we get a chance to connect. So I'll just let people know that we actually have spoken prior to this. You've been following me on Patreon for a little while now, and you started uploading some of your digital art to the Facebook page that goes with that Patreon. And when I saw it, I was just, man, I was blown away. Because as you know, like I've been dabbling with the digital side of things for a little while. And I was just like, wow, how do you do this? Because like when I start drawing digitally, it's just so slow and tedious. And I get bogged down. It's a bit like painting, you know. I start off with the best of intentions of going bold and loose with big brushes. Digital's kind of the same. I can knock something out pretty quickly, but then when it comes to finish that drawing, and so here you go, uploading these master studies that you were doing, and I was just like, man, I got to talk to this guy. And then as soon as I started talking to you, I'm like, what a cool dude! What an interesting story that you have to tell. And I thought, oh man, Anthony, you got to jump on the podcast, bro, and tell us about how you started. So let's kick things off there. Maybe I'd love to hear about where your art journey began, because you're coming to us now from Serbia, and I'd love to even hear about, you know, childhood in a way in Serbia, because I know that came with its own unique set of challenges as well. You could
Yeah.
start us off wherever you feel, man.
Uh, I think I should take us back to 2011.
Mm-hmm.
Before that, drawing art was just a hobby. And I actually avoided going to art school because I saw no future in it. I had no role models, never knew anyone who works with illustration or anything like that. And I intentionally avoided art as a career path. And in 2011, things for me and my family became really bad. I want to keep this light and positive, but I think it's important for this story to mention that back then, you know, financially, my family was in huge problems. My mom was working two jobs, and often with two jobs, you know, people who work two jobs often tend to have less money. They work two jobs because it's difficult. I was in school, my sister was in school. It came to the point where we were basically to, you know, have our basic day-to-day needs fulfilled. We needed to skip on a couple of bills, which kept piling up, and the pressure kept piling up. And that kind of life tends to become really dark and really depressing. Different people handle it differently. You know, all the pressure of that situation was on my mom, down on me. I worked, you know, summer jobs that were basically just patching up small holes. The worst thing about that situation was that I couldn't see a way out. That's the worst thing. You think of a solution, but it's not really a solution. It's just either a temporary thing, or in the best case scenario, you end up just surviving with nothing more to it. And your mind tends to go in a very, very dark place at that, in such times. But something incredible happened then. Randomly, I was scrolling through Facebook, and I came across a Facebook post that said, from a complete stranger, that said something about, hey, don't worry about the money, just live your life and be happy. Which at the time, reading something like that really rubbed me the wrong way. And I politely left a comment on that post talking about just how much you cannot not worry about the money when your day-to-day, your basic needs are in question. You just have to, you have no choice to worry, or in my case, get really depressed. And I never actually got a reply on that comment, and it was almost forgotten. But what happened, and it was later confirmed in a message, the person who made that post kind of noticed me from that comment. We started talking, and at a certain point, her name is Dawn. She offered to help me out in some way. Basic art supplies, something. She lives in Germany, and she wanted to send me, you know, colors, pencils, whatever. And first, I was like, no, I don't want to, you know, ask for that. I have my pencils, my papers. That's all I need for this hobby that I had.
Yeah.
But she kept insisting, and I said, look, I know it's asking too much, but if I'm ever going to make something out of art, I need to start digital painting.
Mm-hmm.
And there is no way that I will ever have the money to put aside to buy myself a drawing tablet.
Mm-hmm.
And if I can get that as a gift, then I have a chance. Then
Wow.
there's hope for me. And I got it. A
Wow.
$60 gift arrived in the mail. I got my first tablet. It was a small Genius tablet. I started painting then and didn't stop since then. It's like,
Wow.
what, 10, 11 years now. That random comment changed my life. And that one gift. In 2012, I got my first job. I already had some kind of a portfolio, and there was a small growing game development company here in Serbia. They gave me an opportunity to just start working, start earning some money, start improving my life. And then I dropped out of school. I was studying to become a kindergarten teacher, but when I got that job, I was finally there. And I was like, okay, now I'm going to give it my 200%. That's when the 14 to 15-hour workday started with no weekends off. After 4 years at that company, I was ready to start my freelance work. And here I am talking to one of my favorite artists in the world.
Oh, you got to stop that, bro. I appreciate it so much, Anthony. I really do. It's very kind of you. But listen, man, I can't tell you what an honor it is to be talking to you and hearing your story because, man, you have got one heck of a story. Please keep going. But I don't want to break the flow here, but I'd love to hear about your first gig, if you don't mind. So you've got this tablet. You start drawing. You get your first job in terms of creating digital art. Can you tell me about that job, what that was like?
Well, first real jobs that got me some money were just freelance jobs. I think I did some music album covers. As soon as I started posting online, uh, I was lucky to have some small opportunities. And when I got my first official job as a concept artist, no, actually it wasn't concept art, it was 2D art, graphics for the games. I already had a portfolio. I was still a beginner. I still didn't have a clear idea where this is going to go. I just knew that I now have the opportunity to work digitally, and I just kept trying to make something that looks good and hopefully get some kind of an opportunity. That job came as a real surprise because I still didn't know that there are game development companies in Serbia that can hire me. And at the time, I didn't think I was good enough to get hired. But luckily, the job was kind of open to people who are just starting out to, it wasn't as demanding as some other big jobs. So yeah.
That's fascinating, man. Because so you were making some posts and getting a bit of attention there from just posting online, and people are like, hey, man, this guy can draw. This is pretty cool stuff. And where are you posting when you were uploading that stuff and getting noticed? What sort of platforms were you posting on?
At the time, it was Facebook and DeviantArt.
Right. Yeah. Is DeviantArt still around?
Yes, and I would say that platforms like DeviantArt are really open to basically everyone at any level to get job opportunities. Because some people think that maybe you have to be really, really good to get a job. It's not really the case. There are a lot of, especially in digital art, a lot of jobs that don't require a lot, but that can get you started.
Mhm.
You know, just small music album covers, some digital. I just recently had an offer to do really small, simple graphics, but I declined that job because it's not what I want to do right now. I want to focus on other stuff. But that's something that you can start with.
Mhm.
If you have some kind of a portfolio, if you do have an idea, and that's one of the advice that I would give. If you want to start working in digital art, try to figure out what you want to do
Mhm.
and start building a portfolio towards that.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I promise you, you'll have your opportunities. There are forums on DeviantArt where you can answer to job postings or post your own portfolio as uh, you offering to do a service,
Mhm.
and that can get you going. That can, small cheap commissions just for you to everything you do starts building up your portfolio even more. And if you don't have work, fine, you have more free time to just create the kind of work that you want to be hired to do.
Mhm.
So the ball starts rolling, and soon enough you'll make it.
It's really interesting you say that about posting the type of art that you want to do.
Yeah,
I find that when a lot of people are starting out, and I certainly was guilty of this as well, is you try to preempt what the market wants, and you end up trying to be something that you're not by trying to pander to what you think is in everybody else's head. But here you're saying, look, no, create your thing, that niche, that audience is going to come to you based on what you're
yeah,
producing, so long as it's quality. And I got to say, Anthony, your work is real amazing quality stuff. Look, I'm sorry to jump around here, and I'll try to uh, ask you some things here, but I'm so fascinated by this because I've been in recent years, I've been toying with the idea of things happening for a reason, or there being some sort of plan, or there being some sort of not predetermined outcome, but for lack of a better way of putting it, maybe. Uh, it's just so interesting to me that one comment, one Facebook post, just one thing, just on your story, on this line. So you're in this place of no way out, no hope, to that having an interaction that could have potentially gone horribly negative and sent you into a further, into a deeper despair, if you will, to changing your life. That's amazing. Can I just ask? So when you got that tablet in the mail, this is so cool. When you got that in the mail, was that from the person who made the comment?
yeah, yeah.
That's
She
amazing.
told me that comment. She never replied, but she wrote me later that it was that comment that made her pay attention to what I was doing. Uh, she saw that I was drawing, and at the time, like, those drawings weren't that special.
Hmm. Yeah.
And but you know, it had to be the right person to see that work and to meet me. I think we kind of kept in touch through other comments. I just for this, I checked our conversation history, and I think we first talked on maybe comments on my post, then went into messages. And yeah, it had to be the right person to meet me at the time.
Hmm.
At the time I wasn't such a great person to meet. uh, in that state of mind, they don't have a lot of interesting things to say,
Hmm.
but I guess that there was still a part of me that through conversation, she saw something good in me and worth investing in.
Hmm.
And yeah, it did change my life.
What was going on in Serbia at that time in 2011? Because you're still there now. There's been some
Oh,
pretty big changes. I mean, it was pretty full on back in the 90s. I remember seeing all kinds of stuff on the news about it. But
Yeah,
what was it like growing up in Serbia?
unremarkable for me.
Right.
Nothing special. That's the thing about me. I'm the most random person you'll ever meet. Just somebody
Okay.
who had that one opportunity to do something, and through a lot of hard work and struggling, I kind of made something.
Mm.
Um, at the time, Serbia is kind of uh, stable right now. There's not much going on in terms of huge world shattering events. But yeah,
Mhm.
there was a bombing of Serbia in 1999. I was 9 years old at the time.
Wow.
Um, Kind of scary time. It didn't last long. I think it was like 3 months.
Right.
It was a scary time for a child. I mean, a bomb fell right next to my elementary school, so that was kind of
It's full on, man. Like, I mean, that would rock people's world, and they wouldn't come back from that. Wow.
just fell into
Yeah.
your standard corrupt politicians doing
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
that people who pay attention look at it like, what are you guys doing? Can you do something good for once? Not much to tell in that on that subject. um
Right.
I'm still looking forward to moving somewhere. I think I'm a Canadian at heart. I have family in Canada, and I was there twice, and
Mhm.
just everything about that country, it just feels like home.
Mm.
The people, the environment.
It's a beautiful country. British
It's yeah.
Columbia is stunning. Yeah.
And I had the luck of seeing a couple of major cities in Europe,
Mhm.
like Rome or Barcelona, and those are beautiful cities. But it
Mhm.
didn't feel like home. It felt like they felt like places that I want to visit often.
Mhm.
But Canada is just, that's what I want, my little house and little bunnies visiting my garden, which happens in Canada. It's
Mhm.
beautiful, and that's one of my current dreams that I'm working on,
Right.
finding my way towards that country.
Brilliant.
But we'll see.
Hey, man. Well, yeah, yeah. I mean, we'll see what the world does here in the next little while, but I have no doubt that you can make that happen. I'd love to ask about your work currently and what you're working on and what kind of has run us through a typical day for Anthony Avon of what you're working on, what's your workflow like? Because I know you're a pretty busy guy. You love to create. You're one of those, classic creatives that you don't seem to stop working. When we were talking
Yeah.
the other day, I'm actually kind of surprised that you're not drawing right now, because when we were talking the other day, it's like as I was talking, you just turning around, you're just doing a little sketch here on the tablet. I'm like, are you working while you're talking to me? What are you
Now I'm
doing?
nervous, and I'm trying to
You're
keep
trying to
myself
covertly draw on your
composed.
tablet. You're looking at another
Yeah.
monitor right now, aren't you?
I have stuff open here.
Of
Right
course you
now,
do.
after 5 years of working whole day, every day, no weekends off, a few times in a year where I do take time off, I'm really tired. And now I'm like, okay, I'm going to step back, do less work. I still have work. I'm still painting, but I'm trying to, you know, pause the whole chaos of working every day. It gets hard. My last job, for the last 2 weeks, I worked 15 hours a day every day. It killed me, but it was a dream job. It's something that I'm very personally invested in.
Mhm.
I This is one of the things that job was so impossible to get. I didn't even know how to apply for that job. I didn't know where to go to get
Mm.
hired to do that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And one day it just came to me. I was offered the job, and I talked to the company, and I knew they did some kind of work related to it, and I just mentioned it in the interview, and I told them, "Hey, I'm a huge fan of that. It's so great that you had the opportunity to work on it." And they were like, "Well, you can work on it now." And I still cannot believe that it happened,
That's
but it got me
awesome.
really tired. So now I'm taking a small break, but that break means every day for 2 to 3 hours, I'm doing master studies. And the plan is to do 100 days of studies without taking a day off from that. Last year, I did 70 days of studies, and the schedule was a wake up, do a study, and then continue with my regular work for the rest of the day. I mostly work on private commissions. So I do have some flexibility with time and no deadlines. That's the most wonderful thing about my work, is that people who hire me don't want things to just be done and over with. They want me to do my best work, and I'm always happy to do my best work. And sometimes that means doing 2 or 3 or 4 days of extra work just to get every
Wow,
single
man.
detail right.
Yeah.
And that really helped me. Like, I never had any real training to do art, no kind of education. So having people trust me and allow me to just overcome that lack of skill with just more work and effort. If I left it at the current skill level, most of the time that work not be as good. But where I reach my limit, this is my current best work. That's when I'm like, okay, what can I do if I keep working on this? What can I improve? Look up preferences for textures. Let's do that rock texture a little bit better. Those trees in the background, I don't like, they work. You can sell the painting as it is. Let's try to do something a little bit different. It might work better. And a lot of my work was finished in that way. Just trying to push myself even more. I can give you some examples that were inspired by you.
Oh, wow.
That
But that's really incredible. And I do want to come back to the master studies, because that's, essentially, I mean, that, man, that really got my attention. And then I wanted to ask you, remember, and pick your brain about those. So I do want to talk about that here in this podcast. But I feel very cheeky in asking you this, and apologies if you can't answer, but can I ask, this dream job that you got, that you're working on, can you tell us who that was for?
I'll just say, look what's behind me. it's
Okay.
it's
So
half of my Lego collection, and
okay. Oh, there you go.
that's
He's
all
dropped it.
I'm going to say.
Okay, he's dropped it. So
uh,
so
I,
so what I really want people to picture here is form in their minds this story, down and out, you know, 11 years ago, a comment's made on Facebook, tablet arrives in the mail, in working tirelessly, relentlessly at his craft. He then turns around, he gets a dream job doing imagery and a graphic for this company, something that he's a massive fan of. Just, dude, seriously, that's mind-blowing to me, and that is epic, and you ought to be congratulated, because that, there's nothing better than a story, and especially when it's your life, that life story of going, no, I want this. I want to work at this. I want to be some. I want to do something, and I'm willing to give it whatever it takes. And that's where those opportunities lie, at the end of that process of toil and fighting with it and getting good. And this is the other thing as well. I really want people to know that the amount of time that you spend, clearly, working on your craft and getting good at it. And now with these master studies of going, okay, what made the old masters great? What was it about them? So when I was looking, so on this Facebook page that's associated with my Patreon, and I want people to know as well, you're on Patreon too, so make sure they go
Yeah.
and support you there.
Can I advertise your Patreon real quick?
Can you what, sorry?
Just advertise your Patreon.
Sure. Go
People
for
listening. Andrew's Patreon is the best Patreon on that site. Like it's the best thing ever. Like if you ever had doubts, should I really give somebody a few dollars a month?
Yeah.
Yeah, you should. To Andrew, start there.
Give me money.
So start there. You'll have a great time. Your community,
yeah.
how much work you put into doing those critiques, and shout outs to other artists. That's the other thing I didn't tell you last time we spoke. I sent you a message on Patreon to maybe get some kind of feedback for a painting that I did that was directly inspired by your work.
Right.
And that's you said a lot of nice things, and you asked if you can feature that work in your next video. And I'm like, wow, that's amazing. So I expected that to happen, but what I didn't expect was for you to actually check out the rest of my work and feature it in your videos.
Yeah.
When I saw that happen, I called my sister into the room. I was crying. I was like a little kid at Christmas. Like that happened last year. And coupled together with some other artists who really mean a lot to me, also noticing and commenting on my work, that kind of stuff. Look, I don't know if maybe through editing of this video, people already saw my work. I am still just, you can say, a beginner at this.
But that's what people who are in the process of mastering but are well on the way say about their work. You'll never be done with this, and you'll never be done learning. But I got to say, man, like, just snapshot of where you're at right now. I was looking at it just going, this is amazing stuff. Now, I do want to talk about digital, because what I'm doing here with this podcast is we're going into some new territory. I'm bringing in traditional artists. I got Thomas Fluhardy coming up here pretty soon for a part 2 of our discussion, and he's traditional artist, illustrator, does a lot of stuff. But I'm starting now to reach out and talk with people like yourself, like my buddy Samuel Earp. Like last episode, we talked about cryptocurrency and NFTs, and this is stuff where people might go, I thought this was an art podcast. And a lot of people still haven't made the connection in their mind of going, well, digital art is art too. So I want to hear about your philosophy behind digital as an art form, because it absolutely is. It absolutely is. But I really want to drill down into that, because you've got a lot to say about the art form, I know. But in terms of the opportunities that are available to us now, I got to tell you this as well, and I don't want this to turn into a mutual admiration society, but basically, Patreon has been, and just being online in general, has opened up doorways for me where I get to do this. This is like my favorite thing to do, right? I bullied in school, felt misunderstood, couldn't fit in, and even in university, spent a lot of years in my 20s just feeling awkward and lost and just weird, and then realized just realized, oh, hang on a second, these aren't my people. I need to find my people. They're out there somewhere. And it wasn't until I started being really authentically me and just saying what I want to say and not really holding back, just being me, that audience starts to show up, and those people, those genuine people and genuine friends start to show up as well. And Patreon feels a lot like that. The Facebook page that's associated with it feels a lot like that. I am my own worst enemy in terms of how busy I keep myself. I don't have time to get to everybody, but I'm looking at that Facebook page and I'm reading everybody's comments and reading everybody's messages and emails and stuff that comes through. Rachel's got more than a full-time job with a new baby as well, going through emails. So it's extraordinary the impact that this has had. But I get the lion's share of the benefit from that, because here I have an opportunity to talk to you and hear this amazing story about your trajectory. It's just so cool, man. It's just so cool. I can't tell you. So no, huge honor. So we'll stop it. We'll leave it there in terms of the Mutual Admiration Society. And I really want to hear about these master studies, because this was such a good idea. Now, I've said in my traditional art practice that, you know, mastery and beautiful painting and success, you know, in that regard, leaves clues. And there is a consistency to the old master's work that is just amazingly awesome, consistently good stuff. And I wanted to know, since the beginning, when I first started painting, what makes the old masters so good? There's something that they're doing, and they're doing it habitually over and over again. What are those things? Okay, we've got drawing, and we got color, and we got all that stuff. And then we started talking about composition. So here, take us through this exercise of what it was like doing these master copies in digital, and the types of paintings that you were choosing for that exercise.
Yeah, I just want to say, for the people who are maybe just now learning about digital art, or knew about it, but didn't think about it much. Digital art, digital way of doing art is just a shortcut. You have ways to do something in a second that will traditionally take you maybe an hour to do, but it's just a shortcut. It's just a faster way of doing things. Everything else, it has to be your color choices, your composition, your anatomy, your texturing. This is all you have to. There are texture brushes that will give you amazing looking textures with just a click, but you still need to know how to apply it properly. And that's the main difference. Few shortcuts, every other principle of creating art is still there. Just one name that comes to mind, Seb McKinnon. His work is digital. There's no way you can tell that's digital work.
Wow.
It's 100% looking like it was painted on a canvas with a brush.
Awesome.
And I have more examples of digital artists who also work traditionally. It's really hard to tell them apart because they're so good at both. So, me as a digital artist, I have to know everything that you need to know about art to create something that looks good. I maybe can do it faster in some ways. So why do I study the masters? Well, because they are the masters. I was first, again, just listening, to comments and side suggestions. I was always hesitant adopting these strict compositional rules. I don't know why I was so stubborn about it. I felt like I didn't want everything to be so obviously composed, where you see the work and you see that I have every single element pointing towards the focal point in a very obvious, very artificial way. And I just wanted to, especially because I like painting environments, and environments are nature. Nature doesn't have those strict rules. And I wanted to make things look natural. Again, I was failing at it because I didn't go through this process of studying and learning from the people who actually did the work, created these amazing paintings. And now, when I'm doing these studies, the first thing that I do is analyze the painting for its composition. I have some examples ready here. I have it on screen. For some reason that apparently works, a lot of these paintings were composed based on the golden ratio. When you look at the horizon line and certain sections of the painting, they all almost perfectly line up with some golden ratio measurement. And that's the first thing that I look forward to. It's really fun discovering, I have a layer with the golden spiral on it that I put an overlay on the image. And it's always fun to actually see how things are so precisely lined up. But when you look at the image, it looks completely natural. It looks completely, as if you were there. Yeah. Nothing is being artificially placed. Everything looks normal. But when you actually start measuring things, oh wow, there's a lot of very precise measurements and decisions that made this image stand out and the whole composition work. And my, I guess, number one advice on how to make your work better in a day: learn how to, at least in basic terms, compose your image. Maybe use the golden ratio and golden spiral as your first compositional scheme.
Just on that right there. So for people that might not be aware, I've done a little bit of stuff on the golden ratio, but could you explain what the golden ratio is?
Well, just everybody link to Andrew's video on that. That's
no, but I want to hear it. I want to hear it here in this podcast, because we all have a way of applying it for sure. I mean, and it is a number, it is a mathematical constant. It's a relationship between, something smaller, something bigger by a particular number, and it shows up everywhere in nature. But tell us a little bit about it and what you found though when you were looking at these paintings.
Can you maybe share a screen? Will that work?
Well, for the audio, because this is going to be in two forms. So this is going out as audio on the major audio platforms, but it's going to be exclusively video just on Patreon. So the patrons on Patreon will be able to see it if we share the screen. So why don't I go ahead and work out how to do that right now? And you're going to have to forgive me if you're listening to the audio version of this, if you're going, well, I wish I could see what Anthony's talking about. Here we go. There we go. So you're just going to have to sign up to Patreon and get the video version of this. And I'll say I'm going to plug it. Here we go. For $5 a month, you can get exclusive access to critique videos, past live stream videos. We're working on how to get those live streams back again, but you get exclusive time lapse. You get a few tutorials there. Did I say Q&As? There's Q&As. There's basic extended versions of whatever you see on YouTube, you'll find over on Patreon, but you also get exclusive access to that Facebook page. And that's worth it alone, just to get access to that page and take part in the community there. And again, $5 a month. I mean, come on, you're not even going to go out and get tacos for $5 a month. So take your art education even further in 2022 and sign up to Patreon. And while you're at it, go and give Anthony Avon a follow on Patreon. I think you'd be really inspired by what you see there. Okay, plug done. Go for it. Share screen.
Sharing screen. There we go.
Excellent.
Can you see it? Okay.
I can. Epic. So we're looking at an Albert Bierstein painting. Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's the best example. Looking at this image looks perfectly natural, almost like he sat there, painted the landscape, and just as it is, he did no further changes to it, but he did.
Absolutely.
Check this first example. I think my theory is that these artists, and this is not just about Bistad, a lot of other artists that I study do the same thing. I think they used no less than 2 golden spirals to compose an image. I have visual proof for that.
Let's
I still don't know.
Okay.
But here's the first composition. So first you'll notice.
There it is. There it is.
Yeah.
It's undeniable. Oh my goodness. Wow.
We
Okay.
have
So explain what we're seeing here, Anthony. Could you make that Bierstadt painting a little bit bigger on the screen? Could you drag that out a little bit? And
yes, I can full screen it.
Perfect. Let's zoom in on that sucker. And oh wow.
Yeah. So first thing that you'll notice is the horizon line perfectly matches this golden spiral within a golden spiral.
That's correct. Yeah.
The basic golden ratio to separate the ground from the sky on this painting would be this line, actually, like this.
Right.
But he decided to put the horizon a little bit lower, but he didn't do it randomly. No. It aligns perfectly with the second division
yes. Yeah.
of the lower section.
Right.
What else? Then in Bierstadt's paintings specifically, you can see that the golden spiral always kind of is supported by, for example, here with these rocks. These random rocks on the ground kind of outline where this line is going.
They do. You can see that the arc of that spiral sweeps up through the foreground of the composition up. So I'll just explain again. Look, if you're just listening to this podcast, we're looking at a painting of a canyon. This looks like Yosemite here. Beautiful open canyon scene. And so he's divided, Albert Bierstadt has divided up the painting here via the golden section, which is a ratio that states 1 is to 1.618. We find it all over nature. And there's actually an interesting tie-in here between the subject and that number, why these artists chose this number. But it's undeniable. As soon as Anthony put the overlay of 2 spirals, one inverted upon another, and the spiral, it's almost like a Mandelbrot set. It is infinite. It keeps going. It doesn't end. You can zoom all the way in on it. You can zoom all the way out. It keeps going. But you divide up the page in terms of this, and I'm going to be making a video, and it's going out hopefully tomorrow on Patreon, all about composition. And I might even include a snippet of this on the golden section and using golden spirals. But this is just, I've never seen it. I assumed that he was using it. I did some basic measurements, but I've never seen it like this. And it's just blatant. It's everywhere in this painting, Anthony. It's incredible.
Yeah. But let's see if I can turn on the other set. This is an inverted set of 2 golden spirals.
Let's have a look. Oh, come on.
Still, you have
So is he using 4? Is he using 4? I mean, look at the corner of that precipice. Look at the corner on the precipice right there. And even the shape of the scoop taken out of the plateau on top of that cliff, it follows a golden section. It's right there.
I was viciously attacked online when I suggested this. I posted a visual example of 4 golden spirals. The comments that I got
go on.
Were the meanest I ever heard. I was sent back to school. I was chased off the internet that day. I don't know. What I'm seeing here is visual, undeniable proof that there's deliberate composing of elements that almost perfectly lines. There, some trees are not exactly on this line.
Sure.
But the major, big, important sections obviously are. Mm-hmm. And it's hard to, both of these, let's put on all 4 golden spirals.
Yep.
Still, this
And so now for people listening, so now on this one painting, do you have the title of this painting, Anthony, so people can look up the painting at least?
I
It's
I
by
should
Bierstadt,
have
and I'm
it.
pretty sure it's Yosemite. But I'll just explain now for the people listening that he's now taken 4 golden spirals, put it up to this painting, and again, the adherence to this golden section is just uncanny,
Yeah.
and it's beautiful. And so when you look at it without this overlay, it does appear to be balanced. And I think look at the detail in that painting, dude. Where did you get such a detailed
There's some
JPEG?
good there's some good high resolution paintings of Bristol. I'm struggling
Nice.
to find good high quality versions of a lot of work that I study. I sometimes
Mhm.
have to work from the low res images, but look at this figure, how it's perfectly placed here.
There you go.
I mean, maybe not. Maybe I'm stretching a little bit, but still, it's placed to align with this major separation.
Oh man, no, I don't know if it lines up. It lines up.
It lines up.
It lines up.
So this is the first thing that I'm looking for when I'm studying the image,
Yeah.
and I look through a lot of work that can be considered, people just starting out, and a lot of it I really like. I don't like to use the word amateur because art skill is a spectrum that keeps going and going until you decide that you don't want to improve anymore. But people are starting out and they're rendering their color choices very interesting, very ambitious, very nice. But if they just set the horizon line in a pleasing way, put a focal point somewhere, either at the end of a golden spiral,
Right.
or on one of these 4 intersections, that would be rule of thirds composition.
More or less. Rule of thirds are 5/8. But
You
it's
immediately improve how you work, because I've seen work
absolutely.
that's beautifully painted. I would change nothing in it, except that the focal point is all the way down at the bottom right corner. It was the weirdest thing. I'm like, no, just move it slightly towards one of these
right.
points.
Can you show us another example of this, Anthony, in another painting? Let's have a look at another one, and because I can't get enough of this. One more. Let's go.
Here's a simpler one, but
Is this
still here?
This is Andreas Achenbach, isn't it?
No?
Who have we got here?
I have it on my Patreon. I try to post now with names of the original artists because I'm very bad with names. I have 4 gigabytes of references saved, so I tend to,
Wow, dude. Oh, this is epic. So this is a painting here for the people listening, a beautiful mountain scene, a view taken from a kind of a rocky outcrop looking out over a mountainous valley. And it's kind of like the last rays of the day where they're just striking this mountain and it's exploding with this pink and orange color, but typical old master style, really rich, dark tones in that foreground, balanced out with some lighter tones in the background. And now here Anthony has overlaid the golden spiral once again. And I got to say, bam, there it is. There it is. It's right there. Look at the trees. Look at the trees in the foreground lining up. The line of the mountains, the main structural line that those mountains hinge off. The line. I'm going to shut up. This is epic, bro. Yeah, there it is.
It's right there.
It's right there.
This is one of my favorites. Back to here we have.
Oh, it keeps going.
The horizon line, the focal points.
Yeah. So another Bierstadt painting. He's just put this is a beautiful, probably one of my favorite Bierstadt paintings of all time. This is a view. It's so fantastic. A view looking into this valley. epic light, epic mountains, the weather in the background, just unbelievable. Deer
Yeah.
coming down into the water in the foreground, some fowl there in the foreground as well. And look at that, even down to the rocks on the water, the horizon, the waterfalls.
Look how that rock clearly starts sending the spiral in that direction.
Clearly, clearly.
The opposite.
It's undeniable. Why
yeah.
would you give you why give you hate? Because it's like, oh, Anthony, go back to art school, bro. There's so many art.
I don't know.
Can we come up with let's come up with a new term for these people. Are they what do they call them? Art bros.
Maybe.
I don't know.
Look, I cannot prove this. I don't.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, certain things were measured to line up with the golden ratio measurements.
Yes.
Did they work with 4 or 1 or 2 or 3 golden spirals? How far did that go? Maybe it's an accident, because I'll tell you what, last year I did 70 days of master studies.
All right.
When I started just doing my own personal work, certain things just started aligning.
Wow.
I started to just intuitively placing certain elements, and then when I go into check my composition, things start to line up. It might be a coincidence, but still it's a coincidence based on the fact that this is the method that was used.
Epic.
So
yeah.
Keeping all these rules in mind, that's why this is so perfectly balanced. And this is one of the most beautiful paintings that kind of shows this rule.
It's one of the finest paintings I've ever seen. You know, I've not seen the original, but it's Bierstadt is an undeniable master. He's got tone and atmosphere and light, and even though he kind of took that landscape and pushed it to the nth degree, and it's almost, you know, verging on the fantasy and the fantastical, but this is just epic, bro. Come back to me. Let's cut the screen share there, and we'll keep talking about this, but I really hope that people have a chance to see the visual. So again, you'll find that on my Patreon page. Just search Andrew Tischler Artist. While you're there, go ahead and give Anthony Avon a follow too on Patreon. So this challenge of doing 100 days of master studies, of finding the old master paintings and then just copying them. What day are you on now? And how's your consistency been so far?
I'm on day 13.
Wow.
And so far it's been going well.
Every day.
Yeah, every day.
Fantastic.
It might be a challenge at a certain point. I don't know. Last year I made it 70 days, and back then I was doing my regular work and those studies. Last year I kind of, I'm still struggling with these studies. These studies are not that easy to do. So sometimes it gets really hard to read the color that was in the original, because every color is kind of changed by the color that it's next to. Certain warmer colors make the other color colder, even though, for example, I mentioned that in our first conversation, sometimes you see a color and it looks really blue, and you go into your color picker and you start painting with blue, and it's not that color. It's actually desaturated red. It's almost gray with a touch of red.
Yeah.
And that's something that's a little bit hard to get used to. I'm intentionally picking very complex painting. I'm trying to, you know, first go through the best examples, the paintings that I like the most. So they take a little bit of time, and but I think I'll make it through all the 100 days. I think I will, because I like finishing projects. I like that I set this as a challenge that I'm posting every day online, and that keeps me going. And I really want to do it. I really want to make it, and hope the results will be what I expect them to be.
Awesome. Awesome, man. Yeah, because there's something about setting a challenge, isn't it? You kind of you have this thing in mind. It's epic, it's lofty, it's ambitious, and then the process of going through all those challenges that come up, by the time you put that challenge down in terms of finishing the task, you're different than when you started. And that's the thing that I like about it most, is the personal growth that happens as you engage and go for something that's difficult. I've often said in the podcast that this is kind of why I like physical exercise, and I've got to get back into it, because now that I'm a father, I'm working on that dad bod, and I like it so much. So I got to get back to lifting weights and doing that sort of thing. But there's all sorts of tie-ins in terms of challenging yourself to do something, not being an idiot about it, but challenging yourself to do something. And whether it's art related or just in everyday life, it's like, hey, I did that, and now I know something new. Now I've learned something new. It almost seems obvious, but it's incredible to me how few people are actually doing that. A lot of people are just spinning their tires, just getting by to get by. And I think if there's one thing I really want to do in this podcast, in every episode, is leave you listening with something that you can engage on right now. And so why not take up a challenge like this? For me, Sketch Endeavor was a huge challenge, and you're inspiring me right now to go, I haven't done an episode of Sketch Endeavor for like over a year. I haven't. And people are like, hey, Andrew, how's the 10,000 hours going? I'm like, shut up. It's not, I moved. All right. I had a kid.
So those 10,000 hours are hard to fill in. Like if I spend like 3 hours per study, and sometimes spend less, that's only like what, 300 hours for this whole challenge.
It's 10 years. That's 10 years to get your 10,000 or whatever it is.
You really have to put in a lot of work. And I guess what I should do here is give a voice to people who are struggling with art. I have, I think, amazing stories to tell about what happened to me on my art journey, but it's important to note that I'm still just a very, very small fish in a very huge ocean, and I am struggling with every painting, with every study. It's hard. This is not to do, but that's why I'm doing it.
You strike me as the kind of guy that doesn't suffer from artist block. Do you ever get artist block?
No,
because
like if my interests have like 10 slots, 8 are filled with art, I'm either working or cannot wait to start working on something else. Then I have personal ideas, something that I want to do. I love working on studies. These are so fun. So I have that, in my pocket. My projects tend to be really diverse. So it's always fun to work on. So every year, at the end of the year, I kind of burn out. I get really tired and I take some time off. And sometimes it's like 2-3 weeks, maybe even a whole month, where I just want to spend time on other things. But then it just
what on earth would somebody like you, creative genius here, what on earth would somebody like you do with time off? You'd see, like, I sit there and I go insane if somebody like I don't do it. I don't do time off. I don't know how.
Yeah. Well, all of my time off activities are creative. Lego is really creative. I like when I'm putting together sets. I'm always changing them slightly. I have a lot of my own personal builds, so that's really creative. And I'm a drummer, so a few times a year I take a few weeks to just go in all on music. Music is really just a hobby for me, but still accomplished a few things with it. And so every time that I step away from art, it's something to do with being creative, with, creating something new, something better.
Awesome.
I guess that's how I work.
Awesome. Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough one because when you're go 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 constantly, it's hard to find that balance. And this is something that I was just asked actually just the other day for the upcoming Q&A video on Patreon. People are sending me their questions now, and I'm like, yeah, somebody was saying, "Oh, yeah, how do you achieve that work-life balance?" I'm like, What is that? What is that?" I don't know. I
Oh,
think balance looks different for everybody, but I do get burned out. It's not that I don't, but
yeah.
it's I for me, my reset button happens. It happens very, very quickly, and I can find it just by jumping in the ocean right there, or getting in a kayak and getting out on the water with the dog, and or spending, of course, spending time with my wife and son. We have this thing now, which is really nice. Is on a really nice day, we'll just walk around the garden in the middle of the day, and I'll just take a break. Go, okay, well, garden, family time. Let's go and see what kind of fruit
A
we can pick.
huge shout out to my mom and sister, because
Mm.
for how many years uh, they have allowed me. They've picked up some of my responsibilities in the house so that I can spend all this time
That's epic,
to
man. Yeah.
to work and study, or just do a lot of extra work on every one of my paintings.
Hmm.
That's kind of impossible for people who have to just do everything by themselves. So
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
appreciate that my family
Mm.
makes it possible for me to put in all this extra effort.
Yeah.
Uh, Life work balance, I really don't know what that is, because I know that for now I just have to keep going, keep working, keep posting. At the time that I got that dream job, I'm pretty certain that I got it because a month before I was going crazy with productivity. I was I don't know how many paintings I produced just that month. Work, personal stuff. I just kept working, kept posting, and I'm pretty certain that it was that work that got me noticed. Uh, the art director who saw me probably came across one of those recent posts, because it's very competitive out there.
Mhm.
Um, there's a lot of high quality art. It's hard to start trending on these platforms, and yeah, that high production rate kind of helped me out. And I know now that, yeah, I have to keep that up, because still, if I want to be discovered by more and more of these art directors who could hire me, I'm sending out portfolios for another dream job, and I know that thousands of artists are sending their portfolios as well. So I
Mhm.
have to keep coming up with new work to show them, uh, keep making it better.
Mhm. Mhm.
And it's a constant struggle. Hopefully there will come a time where there is where it's my choice to spend 8 hours a day working, and then have it be my decision to do a study, do a personal painting. It will always be, I will always like to spend more than 12 hours a day at the tablet painting. Sometimes it wasn't a choice. I had to put in all those hours. If
Mhm.
I wanted quality, look, on that last job, I worked 15 hours a day. I didn't have to really. I could have just sent something that would be approved as that works. I didn't want to create something that works. I wanted something that's really high quality, my best work. And
Oh,
sometimes that
goodness. Yeah.
just takes, instead of 8 hours a day, 15 hours a day. I knew that deadline
Yeah.
cannot be changed.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the only choice was
Mm.
work weekends, work extra hours. And now I know that I really did everything I could to make my art as best as possible. And
Wow.
that's the only way I can work. I really have a hard time leaving loose brush strokes. I really hate loose brush strokes. They look better traditionally. That's something that I wish I could have while painting digitally. Being loose with digital brushes looks kind of ugly to me. I don't like it.
Okay.
But traditionally, the way that paint, merges with other colors, and
Mm. Mm.
the way the brushstrokes look,
There's a
I
physical.
like when it's
Mm.
loose in traditional work.
Right.
Digitally, I just have to fix every pixel. Otherwise, I lose sleep. I don't know how many times I sent a finished painting. The client was super happy, excited about it. Money was paid, but I noticed just a slight mistake somewhere, and I'm like, sorry, I have to fix that, resend the files.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's stuff that nobody would ever notice, but I notice it. I know that it will bother me
Yeah.
later, and like, it has to be fixed
And
because
this is the integrity, right? This is where the integrity is, because I mean, look, you're not just phoning it in. You are working really hard to do your best
yeah,
with the work, and that's super inspiring, man. Because it's it, I don't think it's that common these days. I don't think it's that common that it's like, oh sweet, well I got the gig and I did a painting and close enough's good enough. But you don't want to just sell that one painting, that one digital, you know, artwork. You don't want to just do that once. You want to get employed and have that happen again and again and again. And the thing that you're going to be remembered for is not necessarily, yeah, okay, maybe there is a deadline sometimes, but it's not necessarily how fast you paint. It's how good you paint. It's the quality, and quality takes time. And it's super inspiring, man. To me, it's something that's almost like what I would consider one of those fundamentals within my art business. But it's so nice to have a refresher of that and go back and just go, oh yeah, I need to go back to the basics myself and just focus on, hey, improve your quality, keep focusing on that quality and keep getting better and better and better. Just focus there and put in the time. So if there is a brushstroke out of place or the composition isn't quite right, stop, fix it. I love that.
and that's why your work has influenced me so much, because when I discovered your art, I could clearly see that you are going all the way with it. You're not leaving anything, at home. You're putting it all on canvas.
I'm
You're
trying to.
you're pushing yourself.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of artists that I like. I they do good work, but I feel like they needed to spend just a day more. Maybe for some reason they don't have that day available, but if they did,
Hmm.
that artwork would reach the next level.
Yeah, man.
And I see a lot of value in that. That inspires me. That inspires me with these masters that I'm studying, because I see that they really uh, went all in. Especially when you can look through these high quality images,
Hmm.
there is no, yeah, sure, you need to put most focus on your focal point. That's where the most contrast needs to be, most details, have that really draw your attention. But that doesn't mean that they left like a corner of the painting unfinished, or just very loose. It's still, the detail is there, the work is there, and it shows.
Yeah. Yeah.
And maybe sometimes it doesn't have to do with the attitude of the artist. I know that if I'm constantly working 15 hours a day, and it's really like all in, it's not possible.
Hmm.
uh, when you have a deadline, I can keep it up, but if there's a deadline, I sometimes I will have to leave a loose brush stroke. That's
Hmm.
sometimes there's kind of work in concept art, um, just digital art in general, where you do have those limitations where you're not even expected to do your best work. But when we're talking about illustration and just for example, my work for clients, those clients, I cannot stop being blown away by the fact that some people were with me for many years at this point, who found me where my work wasn't as good, but they trusted me even back then to pay me money to make art for them, make this life possible for me. Out of the gratitude for them being so supportive and kind towards me, all I can do is do my best work.
Oh,
I cannot, live with myself if I like, oh, well, this is just one job, let's keep it going. No, if I have to, do everything I can to, even if it's just a pixel size mistake, if I see that mistake, fix it.
yeah,
And
yeah, epic.
I
That's
think that
awesome.
attitude kept a lot of people. All of my clients are on a Discord with me, and they still follow my work and comment on it. And a lot of them are returning clients,
That's
and I
awesome. Yeah.
cannot get over the fact how amazing they are for doing that for me. And it's my duty to kind of, I have to make it for them. They invested in my future. They trusted me when I wasn't as good, and I owe it to them that 10 years from now they can say, oh, Anthony Avon, yeah, I commissioned him 10 years ago. It's like, I know that. I hope to be a little bit more famous in the future, and I would like all
Yeah.
my best clients to be really happy about the fact that they supported me, because art, it's not something, it's the first thing that will go if are in a minor car accident, bent your car, you're going to fix that before you pay somebody to paint you a nice looking mountain.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
It's a luxury, isn't
uh,
it? Yeah. Yeah. I want people to hear though, right now, like the reverence, the love that you have for your clients, the respect that you have for them, your willingness to just show up and do the best for them, and the gratitude that's coming through right now for the people that support what you do. And when you couple that with your steadfastness, your focus on the quality, I don't see how this can't lead to someplace absolutely wonderful. This is so exciting to just get a snapshot here into your journey. I'd love to hear now, like what is next for you? What are some of those things that you're working on? Maybe a dream project that's far off in the future. What's next for you? Is there any big long form kind of digital work that you're wanting to work on?
well, sure, there's the dream job is illustrating for the game called Magic the Gathering.
Mhm.
If you want to find out what's the current best work being produced by artists around the world, it's Magic the Gathering.
Wow.
From traditional to digital to people who do both, that's the highest quality work.
Wow.
And I'm working towards that. I don't even know if it's possible, because that there are a few realities of the job. Is that there's a limited amount of artists they can hire based on their needs. So maybe there will always be X amount of artists who are better than me, and I will never make it, even though my quality would be there. It would just not be available. Maybe that will happen. Maybe I'll get the job sometimes. I'm working my hardest towards that quality. Hope I get it.
Mhm.
The other thing that I'm working on is a full-time job as an illustrator or a concept artist for a company somewhere in the world, hopefully Canada, so I can move there, start my life There are certain aspects of my life that are completely on hold or maybe ended based on where my future um, will be. So those big life plans, like
Hmm.
planning for, I don't believe I'll ever be able to own a home in this country.
Right.
I'd love to one day.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm very modest with my expectations of what that, you know, has to be, but here it feels almost impossible.
Okay.
So one thing that I need to start working on besides these studies is learning 3D art. That's maybe something that you can look into.
Yeah. Yeah.
3D art can help you, you know, establish, especially for me, where my job will probably be designing environments that include a lot of architecture.
Hmm.
Um, that's something that's kind of hard to do just freehand.
Hmm. Hmm.
uh, 3D helps you establish very complex shapes really fast, so you can, you can rotate it, you can set the lighting,
Hmm.
and then finish it in 2D. That's something that I need to learn as soon as possible because I'm really behind a lot of artists working today. So uh, there's a lot to do.
Yeah, man,
That
there's too much to do. And it's interesting though that, you throw in another skill there like 3D. It's almost like you're going through accumulating skills, and that each one of those could be actionable in a certain way, and desirable for some sort of company to go, hey, we need someone that can do that. So I can do that. Oh, I can do that too. I think the more skills that you have, the more marketable you are in the job sphere in terms of something creative. It all helps. I am just, yeah, totally inspired. You're kind of the guy that is out there doing it all in this way, and it's just really really cool to just, as I said before, get a snapshot into your journey where you are. I would love to hear. We have a lot of young up and comings listening to this, a lot of young creatives, maybe people that are a bit older in their life and in their journey, but they're just stepping out on that creative journey for the first time. What's something that you could offer and that you would like to impart to those people that are, and maybe even those people that are feeling a little bit stuck right now within their creative journey? Just something that they can um, maybe do differently, think about a little bit differently, or some advice that you would offer to them of maybe something that you would have liked to have done different.
uh, I would say to everyone that it's definitely possible for them to make it, because just knowing how much I struggled and I kept improving in terms of the of my work. If I made it to have this conversation, that means it's possible. Things that I would do differently. Um, well, studying. When I started just painting digitally, I still didn't know there was a future possible. It became a possibility, but still without a clear vision of how that's going to manifest. Um, then when I got the job, it was all about keeping that job, succeeding in that job without actual training. Actually, a little side story there. When I started my first job, I was so inspired. I met these two artists that inspired me. Like when I saw their work, I just wanted to paint like they do. The way they stylized everything was so amazing. It appealed so much to me. So just the sheer inspiration of knowing them helped me create better work. But then as things got harder work, uh, I went into a kind of a very depressing and kind of, I started hating my art. I started uh, really creating. When I started out, all those paintings I would still gladly show people as an example. Look where I started out. Look, you can see where I put in the effort, where the quality was, but then it just went downhill because the pressures of my job really create a mental block where I just couldn't uh, produce anything that's good. I struggled with my brushwork, with just ideas, and it really had to do with the side influences. It wasn't me. It was the pressures of the job. It was that struggle. But that's where I actually started doing my first studies, trying to improve, trying to learn. Um, I I wouldn't, if I could change things in my past, I would skip doing like personal projects, because as much as I still have those ideas for those personal projects, but at the time I still didn't have the skill, and it wasn't the best decision at the time to spend time on those while I'm still struggling to create good work, while I still didn't learn enough lessons. I think focusing on studying art is really valuable to get you going, for you to gain a new perspective, gain new ideas. If you're struggling or starting out, that means you need a new influence of something positive, new lessons to learn, new influences that will push you into a certain direction. At the In my early days, I didn't know how to do a study. I didn't know how valuable those are because nobody told me. And I had to discover everything on my own. But people who are listening to this already kind of want to learn about art. So they're in the perfect place to start researching whatever they want to do.
That's right.
Somebody's probably already working on it, and try to just keep learning. Right now for me, it's all about trying to spend as much time as possible studying, so that my work keeps getting better and better in ways that I still feel like, you know, I mean, there's a lot that I can improve upon naturally. So I want that done as soon as possible, and the only way to do it is to really put in the hours and just study as much as I can.
Awesome. That's epic.
What else? It's maybe it's hard to give these general
No, it's good.
advice.
It's good.
Because
I'm inspired.
A lot of people are in very different situations,
For sure.
and need specific advice. If your work doesn't look good to you right now, and you want to improve it, and you want to improve it fast, study composition. That's advice that I would give to hundreds of artists that I come across online. Study composition. That will immediately improve your work, because other stuff like brushwork, I'm still learning. It's a constant process of learning how to just be comfortable with your brushes. So don't worry, that takes time. So the more you paint, the better you'll get at it. But don't worry, that's hard. Use of colors, that's really hard. You can improve by doing studies, but don't worry, that takes time. Values are kind of easier. You're just working in grayscale. If you're working digitally, that's very easy to do. Maybe study values, because if you do good values, oh my God, your work will just really, really, really improve. But day one, just 1 day improvement to your work: composition.
Awesome.
And
honestly, like I'm just as much a student as the next person. I'm just as much of, I'm on this journey too. Listen, dude, I mean, people, you wouldn't have known me like 5 or 6 years ago. I was doing nothing. I've just, a bit like you, I've just been working really hard at this thing. And I can't take responsibility for any of it. I feel like all of this was given to me. So I'm super pumped and super grateful to be here. Like it's all, to me, it's all a blessing. It's not,
And we share that emotion. Like
yeah.
you now knowing how incredible and how easily this all could just not exist.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I think you now know why I'm living with this constant feeling of gratitude towards everything that I have.
Mm.
And
Oh,
with
epic, man.
this life goal of maybe one day I will be able to give an opportunity to somebody that I see is ambitious, but not able to pursue that.
This podcast,
And
I really hope that this podcast will do that. That, you know, just a kind word, just a bit of encouragement, just a little something, like you have no idea the impact that that's going to have on somebody. And I'll just say, Jess Anderson, I don't know if you ever caught that episode of Jess Anderson, the guy that teaches art in prison. And he actually was it's well worth listening to that episode because he's just such an inspiring dude. After our show, people got in touch with him, just reaching out to him saying, you know, what a big heart he had and what a cool guy. And people started reaching out to him who were going through challenges and struggles. He writes them letters, he calls them, he Skypes them, and then he does it continually, checking in on them. Totally, the impact that somebody's message has, just hearing it from a total stranger. I mean, you know, right here, you're sitting here right now because some stranger paid attention to that one thing. So by you putting this out there, I mean, we're all just a stone on a pond. When you drop it in, those ripples go out. You have no idea how far those ripples are traveling, buddy. Like, honestly. So bless you, man. Thank you for being here with me.
that's why I think that people have so much power to influence other people positively.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's incredible how much people who rise up have the power to lift other people with a very small gesture.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing that, and I constantly keep that in mind, that if I keep going with this, I might be famous. I might be one of those people who has tens of thousands of people who follow me. That'll be awesome. I hope I earn it. But I never want to forget what it's like to be just a normal person. Sometimes it feels scary to write to some of these people because they are in high positions. They command a lot of power and attention. And I feel like, oh, how can I even write a message to this person? That's something, if you still have time for just a small story
Of course.
I think it was 2016. I think I just left. Yeah, I just left my job. It was my first landscape commission. Somebody commissioned me for just a mountain. And I was so happy that, wow, I just get to paint a landscape and make money. And I made a lot of sketches. And I posted those sketches on a Facebook group where people post art for critiques and stuff like that. And a random person asked me to see those sketches in higher resolution. I posted, it was really small thumbnails. I'm like, sure, buddy. Wow, somebody wants to see more of my work. How amazing. I send that to him. We start talking. He tells me that I am the only one out of maybe 10 artists he asked for that who actually wanted to give him full resolution sketches. I was the only one. We became friends. He introduced me to a platform where I got 99% of my work for the next few years. That's where I met my other best friend now, who is in England. He's been following and supporting my work since that was probably 2017. He changed my life, made me again, gave me the opportunity to find all those people and clients and supporters. just because I gave him high resolution sketches. And he told me that I was the only one. He started doing studies. He studies, oh my God, you can see in his work how much he was still, I think, still has a little bit of trouble with brushwork, but you can definitely see that he spent time studying masters, portraits. His paintings are so good, and there you can see the influence. You can see what he studied. So good. We're still friends to this day. He's in America. We never actually met. We spoke online, but it was not a single thought was given on my side whether or not I should give him those sketches. Like, why wouldn't I? Then I found out I'm the only one who wanted to do that.
That's amazing.
And because I did that, I discovered a whole new world of work and friends.
Yeah.
And stuff like that makes me always want to give as much as possible to just interact with people, to reply to every comment I get on social media.
That's amazing.
My professional portfolio is an art station. Every time I get a follow, I click on that person, I look through their work, I give them a follow back, because if they gave me attention and wanted to support me, I want to be there when they start creating their, best work, when they reach the point in their journey where their work is amazing. I want to be one of their earliest followers, if it so happens that I was just followed by somebody who's just starting out.
Oh, that's amazing.
There were people who I gave honest critiques that they were doing something that is kind of frowned upon. They were copying somebody's work too closely, and presented it as their own stuff. But I told them, hey, that's okay. You're doing a study. Just say it's a study, credit the artist. And what you're doing now is the best possible way to get better. And that guy was so open to that. He didn't take it as like an attack. He really respected what I had to say, kept doing studies, kept copying other artists, but crediting him and say, this, I'm studying from them. Yeah. He's now so good.
Awesome.
It's like, he inspires me every time. And I'm like, you can do these little things, these little acts of kindness, and just interacting with people who care about you, and amazing things can happen. And I'm just trying to keep that going as much as I can. And
it's you always go the extra mile. And look what happens when you just do something and just go the extra mile, or just do that thing. So to you, it's interesting you say that. It's like, to you, it's a no-brainer. It's like, why wouldn't I do this thing? You do it.
And it's not going extra mile. It's really not that specifically thing. That's not going extra mile. That's just being very kind and thankful that somebody wanted to see more of me. I'm like, sure, of course. If I can offer some kind of help, and look where we are now. I'm super happy. I hope he is too.
Awesome, man. It's heart. That's awesome. That's great, man. Super inspiring. Awesome, man. Anthony, I've so enjoyed this conversation. I will let people know, and I've already let them know up front, but I'll let them know again at the end of this podcast where they can find you and where they can follow you online. But I just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and a huge honor to talk to you, actually, to be honest. I love your work, man. And I'm going to continue to follow now with interest. And I know we're going to keep talking as well. But I just want to thank you so much for being on this episode of The Creative Endeavor.
Thank you, Andrew. And that's something that I started saying before. People like you who have the amount of success that you do and the influence, if more people are like me in that way, one comment from you, one like on Instagram or Twitter or wherever is enough to, push the artist forward for the next 6 months. I'm still processing the fact that, last year, one of my favorite artists started a conversation with me, gave me a lot of nice compliments, and I never thought he would ever even see my work.
Yeah.
The people whose work I know from when I was like 6 or 7 years old. One of those guys commented on my work on Twitter, and I'm still being fueled by the positive energy of that.
That's awesome.
The fact that you gave me the time to talk about my work, even though I'm just so not special in this work. Thank you for liking what I do.
But you are, man. And listen, just that composition talk alone, it's like, I don't think there was a piece there that was missing from me. And I'm going to put a little snippet of our previous conversation and this one in that composition video. And it's just, this is what I love to do. This is what I live for, man, is just talking back and forth on art. But listen, man, it's been super cool. I just so appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you, Andrew. Knowing that you're following my work will definitely help me finish this challenge. Next year is going to be 200 days of studies.
Oh, wow.
Year after that, we're going with one study every day.
Every single
day. It's going to be amazing. I hope that, a few years down the line, we'll be talking about both of our, evolution in terms of art and what we've achieved.
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to studying some of your work, by the way.
Don't look too close at that. Oh no, listen, if you're going to be picking work apart, don't look too close. No, I so appreciate that, man. Anyway, but look, I know we're going to be talking some more. So again, thank you so much.
And thank you.
Well, I really hope you've enjoyed this episode of the Creative Endeavor podcast, and a huge thank you to Anthony Avon for joining me. Man, what an inspiring story that was. Isn't it incredible when somebody just gets a small opportunity and they just grab it with both hands and they just start running? And it's just incredible to see where that attitude has taken Anthony and where it will continue to take him on his creative journey. I have no doubt that we're going to be hearing his name a lot more. Now, right now, you can go follow Anthony on Instagram. If you haven't done so already, go and follow him there, anthony.avon.art. He's also on ArtStation, artstation.com/Anthony Avon, as well as Patreon, patreon.com/Anthony Avon. And that last name is spelled Avon. Thanks so much to Anthony for joining me. Man, I've enjoyed this conversation so much, and I hope you did too. And if you enjoy conversations like this, and please go ahead and leave this podcast a rating or a review on whatever audio platform you're listening on. You might not think it makes much of a difference, but it actually does. It makes a huge difference to the podcast, and just how visible that is in the feed when people are searching for cool art podcasts to listen to. By you just leaving a rating or a review, it helps push that to the head of the queue and gets this out there to more ears, and I really appreciate that. So thank you for taking the time to give this a rating and a review. I really appreciate it. Man, let's keep the inspiration going here this year in 2022. I'm really looking forward to next week. I'm bringing a conversation to you with Thomas Fluharty. He's back for another round on the Creative Endeavor. I cannot wait. Thank you so much for spending this time with me here. Thank you once again for listening to The Creative Endeavor.